Welcome to the Art Lady channel. Today we're going to be doing a paint along. And that means that you will be painting with me as I do it. So what I want you to do is to watch and then you do. It's just like the draw alongs that we do together. So you're going to wait for me to finish something and then you do it. Okay? And then as I fill in big areas, you can fill them in with me. We want to decide what color the base of our bird is going to be. And the base of the bird, let me show you one that's done up here. This is the first step that we're going to do. This is the base coat of our bird. An artist paint in layers. So the first thing we need to get down is the circle for the head and then the body of the bird. But if you notice here on my base coat, it doesn't have all the beautiful feathers and the details in the eyes and the beak. It doesn't have that yet, because the first thing we need to do is the base coat, which is underneath all these details. If I were to paint all the little details first, it's real hard to paint around all those details to get to the base coat underneath. So the first thing we do is the large areas of color, the base coat. To paint the base coat, let's first of all decide what's good color choices for a base coat. So let's take a second and think about it first. A good color for your bird's base coat would be a light, bright color. So you look in your paint palettes and decide which light, bright color would work for you, that you really love. Let's look at some examples. Here is a light green base coat for the bird. So the majority of my bird is light green. That's one look. Here's a yellow one. This is done in orange. An orange base coat with all the patterns on top. This is a lighter orange, almost a yellowy orange color. And then this one has a light teal base coat. So now you're going to decide which color you want for your base coat. And you're going to start moistening that color in your color palette. And my students today in this paint along are first graders, and we're using tempera cakes, which is a dried form of tempera. It's similar to a watercolor where you have to add water to the color. We're going to have to add water to our tempera as well. So we're going to now moisten the color that we want for our base coat. And then we're going to find the center of our page. We want to go from top to bottom, side to side. And we want to actually find the very, very, very middle of our page. When you're at the very middle of your page, what you're going to do, and for my bird today, I'm going to choose a light green bird. And when you find the middle, what you're going to do is just put a small line right here in the middle, a horizontal line. Now I'm going to come around and check to make sure you're at the right section in the middle, because you want to be exactly in the middle. If you're too far up, we're not going to have a lot of room for the head. And then look what's at the top of our bird. We want to have a little bit of feathers on the top and maybe some leaves coming down. He's going to be a bird in a jungle. We're making imaginary birds in a jungle. So you want to make sure it's not too far up on your page. This is just a line in the very middle of our page. And that's where our head's going to begin. And then we need plenty of room at the bottom for the body. So at this time, you want to make sure that you're in the very middle. If you're not in the middle, as an artist, it's so easy to fix it. Just make it where you need to be. I'm going to make it a little bit lower, so look what I do. I just extend my line a little bit lower so it's exactly in the middle. So now we have our line in the very center, so that guideline's real important. Now we need to make the circle for the head. Here's our nice circle for our bird head. So I'm going to find the middle at the top, side to side. Remember how we found the middle down here? Side to side, we go to the top middle. And I'm going to jump down a little bit from the top and put a line. Look how much I jumped down. If you put your finger down here, look, my finger, look, it's not near my fingernail, is it? It's a little bit lower than my fingernail. Remember, you want to leave a little head clearance. You want to leave a little negative space. Negative space is the space around the head, all over here. See how I came down to add feathers? You need to leave a little room for the top of his head. Now that we have the line here, we're going to simply make a circle with our brush. Make sure you dip in your water. I touch the edge so I'm not real watery when I go in my paint. Water, then our color, and I'm swirling gently into my color. So this is called loading up the brush. Now I want to draw a circle. I'm going to draw half of it first. So I hold my brush just like a pencil because I'm going to draw a circle, half at a time. So if you hold your brush, look at that, right near the metal. Now I'm going to draw around. Watch me first. Down and around. So go ahead and do that now. If your circle's a little lumpy, that's okay, because we're going to fill it in. We're going to be filling our circle in with that color. And remember, if you can't reach the color, just turn and spin your paint so you can reach it, so it's closest to you. Now we're going to do the other side of the color. I'm going to go back in my color and swirl, and I'm going to draw the back side of the circle, or the other side of the circle. Down and around. Go slow and careful. When I draw, look at this, I'll go slow here. My hairs drag behind. Let them drag behind so you get a nice, beautiful, evened edge to your picture. Make sure your colors are nice and bright. You don't want to have it so watery that you can't see the colors. Nice, bright colors. Oops. Now I'm going to dip back in a little bit into my water. And I'm going to go back into my color and swirl. I'm going to draw a circle, a small circle, inside. I'm up toward the top here. This is going to be the big eye space. I want to leave it white. And I'm going to paint in the rest of my bird head. I'm just going around that circle as careful as I can. You may paint with me now. After you draw the circle for the eye, nice and big, because we're going to add other colors inside, detail later. Now I'm coloring in with my brush, nice and smooth. When we paint, we don't want to leave any puddles showing. And a puddle is a lot of water that when you move your paper, it kind of drips everywhere. If you have a puddle, you want to smooth it out. I go slow as I draw around my eye, and I'm just taking my time smoothing in the face. And this will be the head of the bird. And our bird is in profile. And profile means it's looking on its side. So when a bird's in profile, we don't see both eyes. Now we're ready to paint the bird's body once you have that filled in. I'm going to slide this up here a little bit so you can see the bottom of my page. Now we're going to do the body, and it's going to be the same base color. Look at here. See? So we're going to take our color, and we're going to go to the edge here. The edge of our circle. So let's go to the bottom and then come up a little bit. And we're going to do a diagonal line, and I'm going to draw it from the head right down to the corner. Make sure you load up with lots of paint on your brush. Lots of paint on the brush. Go right down. Now here is a bird with one line. Now we've got to give him a body and a tummy. So I'm going to load my brush up again, give a little bit of water, stir it till I get nice creamy paint. Now I'm going in the very middle. I'm going in the very middle of my head, I'm going to go down and curve toward the corner. So I went from the middle of the bird's head down and curve to the corner. Let the hairs drag behind so you get nice, beautiful edges. If you're going to draw lines and you see this, that just means you don't have paint on your brush and you need to get more paint. Sometimes in the middle of a long line, we need to stop and get more paint. Now, fill it all in. Long, big strokes going up and down, because the bird is long, so I'm going long. Any puddles, I'm smoothing out. If your paint isn't flowing smoothly like mine, you might need to add a little bit more water. Each time I go into the paint, I barely touch my water, just to give a little bit more water on my brush, and then I can swirl into my paint. I swirl in enough to get nice dark color on my brush. Then I can go back and forth. If I have puddles inside my paint, I don't need to go into the water. I can just go right into the paint. You can see how my paint here has a little bit of puddle at the bottom. So I don't need to re-moisten the paint. I just need to get more of the creamy part in the top of the dish here. So I'm going to focus on that. Getting nice creamy colors, bright color of paint. And I'm smoothing that all out. Artists at all times are assessing. They're looking at things. Is my paint too wet? Is my paint too dry? And your brain should tell you how to fix those problems. So if my paint is too dry, I need to add more what, my friend? So if my paint is too dry as I'm painting, if I go into my color and this is dry, what do I need to add to my color?
Water.
Right, I need to add more water to my color. And if my paint is too watery, my paint doesn't even show colors when I paint with it, what do I need to add?
Water.
More water. If I try and do my brush like this and it's too dry, I need a little bit more water in my paint. So we're always thinking and assessing as we make our picture. We're assessing the conditions of our paint and assessing our pictures. Check your picture now. Checking is assessing. Check your picture to see if you have all of your color colored in. You don't want to have white patches showing. You want it to be smooth, so go back over it now. Sometimes if you just put a little bit of water on your brush, go back over the whole thing with a little bit of water. Smooth out all your color if you're done. I'm going back over it now and just smoothing it out with just some plain water. That'll even out my colors. Remember, you don't want to leave puddles on your picture. So dip in the water and smooth out the whole thing. If your bird looks a little dry, look at the paint. We just simply add a little bit more water on our brush. We keep on dipping in, adding more water. If you have little paint spots on the background, that's okay, because we're going to add the environment to the bird later. Don't worry about little paint spots on your paper. Fill in your bird nice and evened. And go back over if you have any spots like this boy's doing. So we're now filling in our bird so it's a nice solid even cover of color. So we're going to blend this in so it's a nice darker color. Here's two examples of nice bright colors for the base of our bird by first grade. When that's done, we're going to wash our brush really good. Now we're going to switch to what's called a detail brush. So I'm washing my brush really good. And I'm going to switch to this thin, round detail brush. Now we're going to add some details to our picture. So let's look at what we can add for details. We're going to be using the small brushes. And look, we can paint different colors around the eyes. Remember we left this a white? So I can give a color inside here with my brush.
Okay.
We're going to be adding feathers to the bird. And I'm going to show you how to do that now. For the details, I want you to stop right now and don't paint while I show you this. There's different ways of holding your detail brush. And with the detail brush, you can paint really tiny and skinny lines by resting your hand and arm on the paper and holding it just like a pencil. So you're not going to do this right now, you're just going to watch. And I can use just the tip and I can draw with just the tip. This gives me really skinny lines. Watch down here how I can add skinny plants. Long skinny lines I can drag, but my hand is resting on the table. With the detail brush, I can also do tiny dots with the tip of my brush, just pressing really carefully. Okay? I can take with the detail brush, if I lay it down sideways, not holding it up straight like this for tiny dots, but I can press with the sides. Look what I can do. Press, press, press. These are real skinny little feathered patterns. I can do these things with my detail brush. So adding skinny lines, I can draw, I can press using the tip to make dots, or I can press to make these feather lines. Now, let's watch, and I'm going to show you some different things that you can do. I added skinny lines for the stem, and I pressed my leaves. I added dots for long flowers. I pressed going around a dot to make a big flower. We can add leaves, patterns, fun feathers. I can use many colors in my feathers. Many colors and patterns down here. Look at all the fun detail lines I can add. We can draw in the beak. To draw in the beak, we simply take a color, a light bright color, and again, this is an imaginary bird. I come out. Now this is the side we want to do opposite. So if you look down here, here's the side where our body comes into. Our body comes to the corner, so the bird faces the opposite direction. So I'm going to draw a long skinny line, and you can do this with me, practicing using just the tip. Now your beak could be short, your beak could be skinny, your beak could be curling down. Here's a really big one here.
Whoa.
Here it is here. See how it's a triangular shape? Then we're going to draw another line, starting at the head, diagonal.
Oh my gosh.
See how it forms a pointy beak? And then I'm going to do the bottom, diagonal up. So that forms my beak. Now I'm going to trace this line, and I can fill this in. For this bird, I'm going to give some other values of red and red-orange. So I'm going to fill it in with some lighter color. So I'm filling mine in now with a red-orange. So now I'm going to give you time for you to finish your picture, adding detail to your picture at this time.
Okay. Can we watch